Jeff, welcome to the deep dive. We appreciate you joining us.
Thanks for having me on, Jeremy. I appreciate it.
No problem. Obviously, the sprint car world knows who you are because of everything going on recently. Your Spire Motorsports is going to own Gio Scelzi's car for a high limit campaign. But before we get to all that, I kind of wanted to go back into your history because you kind of burst on the scene here, and we're going to get people to know you a little better. And I know when I was at PRI and talked to you, I didn't know you were from Indiana. You have dirt roots. How do you get from Indiana to North Carolina? So, first off, you were a USAC midget driver.
Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, I don't know that anybody could, nobody would, I mean, we can do the story, of course, Jeremy. I'm not sure anybody's going to believe it. I mean, I truly am, absolutely lucky. Again, I don't know if my story is one of a kind or, I know people, certainly have interesting stories, but my deal actually starts. My next door neighbor and the first guy that ever took me to the racetrack was Mike Helm, which I'm sure not a lot of people know who that is, but he's the 1989 Lincoln Park Speedway champion. And we used to go as soon as I was like 12. I think you had to be 12 or something like that to get into the pits. But as soon as I was old enough to go in the pits, I started going. And again, it's just like I think back, and it's just the people that I could like learn from and try to emulate. Mike Helm's biggest rival was Bob Kinzer,
Oh,
and so I would be up in the timing stand, before they would actually let me touch the car. I would sit up in the scores stand during like qualifying, and Mahalia Kinzer is who really taught me how to act at a racetrack and which way to look when I'm crossing the pits and everything. But so that turned into, again, these people just all poured into me. Like Mike Helm turned into, and his dad turned into Jim Whiteside and his family. And, I had a teacher. I went to North Central High School, and I had in Indian on the north side of Indianapolis, and there was an independent learning program so you could like miss Fridays if you needed to, and miss Mondays. And so I would go, whether it was with the Helms or with the Whitesides, I would go to Bloomington Speedway on Friday nights, and obviously we would run Putnamville on Saturday, Kokomo or Hopstad on Sunday. So I was missing Monday mornings a lot. And so a teacher actually thought that I was on drugs or something and staged an intervention. And
no.
yeah, and so when I was just like, I'm not on drugs, I'm probably on the worst drug, racing, but I told him what I was doing. And he said there was a guy that came through here probably 5 years ago, named Tice Carlson. And, so Tice was running the USAC stuff. And again, for the local kids and drivers, around, Indiana, in those days, and maybe it's still like that, is like USAC was the deal. Right. And so when I wrote a letter to Tice, and they finally relented and let me go to Salem with them. And I mean, I may as well just hit the big time right there. I mean, that was the greatest day, of my life, to be in that pit area, think like fall of 93 ish. You had Tony Stewart and Ben Leba's car. You had all these guys that were just like, Kenny Irwin, all these guys that were, now you look back and you just see how lucky you were. So that turned into Tice, and Tice introduced me to Drinan. I worked for Danny Drinan for a while, building cars. And when Tice went up to the IndyCar series, I mean, obviously everybody I was running go-karts and things like that, and everybody knew I wanted to drive. So I'd been a mechanic and I'd done all these other things. And so when Tice moved up, essentially, his mom bought Jack Ewitt's old midget from Don Murphy. Jim Wright put a Brayton Buick in it, and next thing you know, I'm racing. And those were probably the best, 2 or 3 years, of my life. And I was just good enough to make noise. I was, Tice would tell you, I went through plenty of equipment, just
Yeah.
standing on it or trying to. But so that I got hurt. I guess it was at Sun Prairie I want to say in August of '99, I guess. And so Tice's IndyCar deal was really taking off. And it's crazy, Jeremy, to say this, but it's absolutely the truth. I essentially went from that to running. I was a team manager on an IndyCar team at 24.
Wait a second.
Um,
Wait a second. Wait a
yeah,
second.
yeah.
So you're a mechanic. You're learning everything. You're driving. You get injured. What was the injury, if I may ask?
Just like collarbone, shoulder.
Okay. How do you end up running an IndyCar team? Because we're talking very big differences between running
Yeah,
a
yeah.
USAC team.
So I was spotting for his team anyway, right? And just as if we're going to speak about my driving career for a moment, I was making plenty more money spotting the IndyCar series for Tice than I was driving. So, um, so I knew I had to do something. Like the Carlsons, and they still are. They're so good to me. I mean, I had the best equipment. I had the best of everything. I mean, I seriously, it's not like I could look back and say if I just had this or that or, any of that. I had the best. And so, um, they were interviewing me to be the PR guy. And they had just, the team, the Hubbard family, owned it. And, they were interviewing me to be the PR guy, but they just fired the team manager. So I was a little bit more stubborn in those days. And so I essentially spent my whole interview with them just telling them all the stuff that they screwed up. And I don't know why they didn't empower the guy and do all that. So when they called me on Tuesday to say I had the job, I thought it was the PR job. But essentially what they were saying, well, if you're so smart, then you do it. And again, these things are so crazy, Jeremy, but that's how I met Kerry Agajanian. And so I went from when that race team was folding at the end of the year, I called Kerry, he had given me his card and said, hey, if you ever want to do something. And so that's how I became an agent. I started working for Kerry and I ran I guess now it's called driver development. I don't know what it was called back then, but I started taking these guys out of the USEX stuff and bringing them down, and putting them in stock cars I mean, I don't know how much time we have, but essentially that's how I
So,
ended up in North Carolina.
so you go to Motorsports Management International.
That's right.
We don't, I mean, look, you have David Gravel, Carson Macedo, Buddy. They don't have agents. Okay.
Yeah.
They're, Gio Selzy. I don't think you negotiated with an agent. So what does an agent do for USAC guys to like, how do you even broker that? Because it's just not something we see in dirt racing.
Yeah, it's different now too, isn't it? So back then, I mean, remember with Thursday Night Thunder and
Yep.
everything that was going on, like I was again, I've said it already, Jeremy, too many times. I am just the luckiest guy, just at the right place at the right time. Like when I was doing the USAC stuff, not only were drivers making it, but crew guys were making it. Like Andy Graves and Timmy Shutt, and I mean, there were plenty of guys that were coming from USAC and going not just on the behind the wheel, but behind the scenes, um, or working on or being crew chiefs or whatever. So. Um, it was just a different time. Like right now, when you look at like the High Limit series or the World of Outlaw series, I mean, that is the pinnacle of motorsports. I mean, that is as commensurate with anything else in the world. I don't think there's a lot of guys that grow up anymore that are saying, "Hey, this is hey, I just want to go NASCAR racing or I want to go IndyCar racing." I mean, I think all of us, they grow up now and say, "Hey, I mean, the Outlaws are the deal." And in fact, I mean, I remember when we first met Kyle, or Kyle Larson, when we started representing him, that was his dream. He was just like, "I'm just going to be a World of Outlaw driver." You know what I mean? And we're like, "No, no, hold on, man. You can do it. You're better. You can do anything, really." But back then, it was just Tony and Jeff. Jeff first, right, and then obviously Tony Stewart behind him. They ushered in all these people, right? So it was just like, how do we get Leffler down? How do we get JJ Yaley down? I mean, Aaron Fike. I mean, there were so many that were super talented in getting opportunities. And what's different now, and I understand I'm on the other side of it now, but it's like owners were investing in young drivers then. You know what I mean? So it's like all those guys I just named, they weren't bringing money. They were getting hired to go, what I mean, race trucks and race, what then was the Bush series. So that's how I was really able to build like an agency, or not an agency. I didn't get to build that agency. It was Kerry's. How I was able to build a career was that pipeline of taking guys like Josh Wise, like from Indy, from the USAC stuff to NASCAR, and That just dominoes where, you hit your ass enough on it and people think you know what you're doing. So, I mean, I guess that's just, but that's different now because I think guys that are actually racing, wing sprint cars. I mean, they're able to make a real living with a real fan base. And oh, by the way, they're on TV every night. You know what I mean? So it's just like it's a totally different world. Where back then it's just like we all just wanted to make it on ESPN, right? Or we all just wanted to make it. Um, so we're all still very fortunate. It's just a different time. But I know it's a crazy story. Crazy story.
Well, we're going to get to that because I have questions about agents, sprint car racing, and how that relates. But so you're at essentially Motorsports Management International for 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
You decide to leave and you start Spire Motorsports and Entertainment.
Yes, Spire Sports. Yeah, at that point it was just the agency. Yes, Spire Sports and Entertainment.
So what made you do that? Did you just want to run your own shop, which that happens a lot? We've seen many TV series about that. And you brought in a partner as well. So how did that all work and why did you go that direction?
Yeah, I mean, truly, like looking back, I wish we didn't. I mean, I know, hold on, we were super lucky and with all that. It's just like there was a group of us that was at MMI in those days. And I don't think there's one guy that was, working there at that time that is not just killing it right now. You know what I mean? Like we just were. I'm not saying we couldn't have worked, but we were all young and we were all, Rod Moskowitz, who is now runs Pro Sport. He has his own business, and Chris Bybee, who's got his own management company, and then we have Spire. It's just like, but we were all in the same hallway back in the day, and in those days, we had most of the market pretty much cornered, so there wasn't anything that was going through NASCAR that wasn't coming through our doors, and it is, man. It's just like that disease of more. It's just like you don't know how good you got it, and so So when we started Spire, me and my partner TJ Pusher at the time, he was just leaving Braun and Turner Motorsports, and so I was representing essentially Kyle Busch and Denny Hamlin, and they were trying to get Dollar General as a sponsor. So what I did was how I met TJ was I brought Kyle and Denny. They had Vickers, and then those three guys shared essentially what was a Busch car, and I guess that was in '08. That's how we met. And then when we just started our own deal, TJ was looking to do something different. So I forget what we bought or sold. There was something. I was representing one guy and he was representing the other guy. And what we did is we essentially put our commissions together and we started Spire and again, these are guys that all just poured into me along the way. And Chip Ganassi gave us a loan, like $100,000 or something, whatever it was. And so, we essentially built Spire on, $250,000, and to see what it's turned into now is just, it's just crazy.
Welcome to another edition of the SprintCarUnlimited.com live show. I'm Jeremy Elliott. Thank you to everybody who's joined so far and everybody who will join the show over the next hour and a half, 2 hours. No breaking news this week. I mean, everybody watched the Chili Bowl, I'm assuming. I did not, but obviously I know what happened. So let's jump right into the chat. We can talk about anything sprint car racing or whatever else you want to bring up. So let's get started. Wellness check for Jim from Buffalo from his home. Yeah, I'm sure we might hear from Jim from Buffalo. He's going to have to depend on the Sabres now. The Bills are out. If you want to talk about that, that's fine as well. But hopefully we hear from Jim tonight. Do you have any hockey bets we should be tracking tonight? Well, Connor McDavid has not scored in 5 games. So if you're going to lay a prop tonight, it would be on Connor McDavid. They're hosting the Devils. The records are pretty close to the same amount of wins. The Devils have 5 more regulation losses. I had Connor David scoring the other night. I didn't win that, but I did have a plus 140 on them covering the 2-goal spread, and they won 5-2. So that worked out, or I believe it was 5-2. And so I would put some money on Connor McDavid. And the Sharks are going home this weekend after a long road trip. I would bet against them the first game back, talking to a friend of mine. And teams that have long road trips and then go back home have a tendency to lose. That happened the other night when the Sharks beat the Florida Panthers, who were coming off a road trip. So that's what I got so far. I haven't really looked that close at it tonight. The Bears are playing at home. I am not there, choosing to do this show instead. So here we are. Any streaming package announced for PA Sprint Series? Not as of yet. I know PAPosse.tv will be doing the Bedford shows, I guess, Path Valley, Bridgeport, Clinton County, and all the Lincoln shows. Flow Racing will be doing all the Port Royal shows. That's their normal carrier. Dirt Vision will be doing Williams Grove. So that's what we have so far. Cole Macedo is a legitimate threat to win the Grand Annual Sprint Car Classic in Australia. What makes him so good over there while being kind of middle of the road back here at home? Well, I think part of it is competition. I know, with all due respect to the Australia guys, you don't have Carson Macedo. You don't have David Gravel. Buddy Kofoid did not go back to Australia. So I think you're dealing with just a difference in competition. Logan Schuchart isn't over there. Rico was over there for a little bit. Didn't fare too well, but he has Ricky Warner back here. You just don't have the depth over there that you have here. And I think that plays a big role. I think Cole Macedo as well is in a good car over there. I think the rules are a slightly different, as far as the cars. I think maybe that could play into some things as well, maybe to his benefit. But overall, I just think he's not running against the World of Outlaws every night or High Limit. So I think that's a big part of it. We have Pete on line 1. Pete, how are you?
I'm good, Jeremy. How are you doing?
Not too bad. Not, missing a hockey game tonight, so I'm not happy about that. But hey, duty calls, work calls.
Hey, all the sacrifices you make for us.
Let's not get carried away.
All right, I won't. Man. I think we're about to get some of y'all's weather down here in my way in Oklahoma.
Yeah, we've heard things about possibly 15 inches in central Pennsylvania this weekend. I'm not, obviously it's too far out to predict that, but I'm okay with snow. I don't mind it.
Yeah, they're talking about the ice for us, which is what I'm not okay with. But
no, I can understand that.
We'll wait and see. Like I say, it's too far out to predict it. Hey, so did you see or hear about the viewership for the high limit race at Eldora on FS1 and Flow?
Yes, it was. It's in the 230, 240 range, 240,000. That was what they announced.
Rodman reported it at 387, 417 between Flow and FS1, and that shocked me.
Is there a multiplier there? Because there's also multipliers used in those instances. Now, I'm not saying he did, but I do know multipliers are used, and I know that for a fact because obviously I've seen.
In what way? What do you mean by
that? If you get, say, 40,000, views, they'll take a 2.5 multiplier and do some of TV does it all the time because they figure 2.5 per household. It's how many people in the household.
Okay.
So I'd be curious.
I see what you're saying now. Okay. So there's 2 people at home watching it. They
2.
call it
2.5, something like that.
now.
So I know when they originally
I was just surprised.
But when they originally announced it, it was like 247,000. Now, I don't know how many were watching on Flow. I'm not saying he's wrong. I'm saying I'd be curious if any multiplier was used.
Okay. Well, that would make more to me. That would make more sense because, I mean, I want them to have 300 million. I just that seemed like a ton to me. And then, obviously he was talking about it with their announcement of 6 shows next year.
Sure.
And so I was like, well, golly, yeah, if they've got, 350,000, well, sure, they're going to want 6 more shows next year. Now, with the context of maybe they use a multiplier, that would change it a little bit. But clearly they saw it as a success. One of the 2 parties did enough to get the other one on board. So I guess it worked out for them, but that viewership blew my mind.
Here's some context for you. To get 1 Nielsen point, you need roughly 800,000. 800,000.
I don't have a clue what that means. What's a Nielsen point?
Okay, when you see your ratings, if you go in and say, okay, if you put in ratings for one of the football games this week, or national championship game last night.
Okay. Yeah.
You'll get like 16 point whatever. Those are Nielsen points. Nielsen is kind of the accepted ratings platform for TV shows. I don't know if they use something else now.
800,000 per point.
Yeah, roughly. It used to be 800,000. You needed 800,000 quote unquote, I guess, homes to get 1 Nielsen point.
Okay.
So we need to bolster those numbers.
Right. Well, I just, either way, it makes more sense to me now. And again, I want them to get all that viewership. I just was kind of blown away when he said that. I would just, that's insanity.
Yeah. I mean, I've always been under the impression that Flow's about, I mean, and Rigsby has said this publicly, roughly 100,000 dirt track fans. I think there's probably a little more, but that the market is somewhere in that 100,000 range. Again,
right.
I don't know if they use the multiplier for that or not. I can understand having the other 6 shows, especially with where they're going. They're going back to Eldora. They're going to Kokomo. Vado's a great facility, and you have Grandview.
And Eagle's always such a big show for them.
Yes, Eagle's a huge show for them.
They picked the right ones, and they're all midweek, which Rodman talked about, possibly lack of, crossover with other sports.
Competition.
Yep. Makes total sense.
Yep.
So, and then that was really what I had.
Sure.
On a side note, I got to visiting with the guy, your favorite event ever, the shootout. And he was telling me how disappointed he was that KKR hired Jason Pursley while we're watching Pursley race. And I was like, what is so wrong with him? Like, I couldn't understand what he was saying. He's like, man, he crashes everybody. Everyone he gets close to, he crashes them. And I said, no, I don't think that. I mean, I was like, yeah, he's had that dust up with Larson or whatever. And I was like, it just, things happen. He's like, nope, he wrecks everyone. Everyone he's close to gets crashed. And I said, have you watched Cannon McIntosh race before at all?
Yeah.
And he was like, oh yeah, he's awesome, And I was like, okay, man. I was like, we'll just have to agree to disagree. Because I was like, yeah, Percy's wrecked some cars. I was like, but I don't think he's just going to tear everything they have up. And he said, yeah, he's going to destroy everything they got. He said, they're going to run out of cars by the end of the season. And I said, okay, man, I guess so. I mean, am I forgetting something here about personally?
Look, sometimes you just got to look at people and go, okay. You just let them.
Well, hey, I know, and that's what I did. I said, look, he was a very nice guy. We talked for 2 hours, and it was fun. But I said, man, I don't understand where you're coming from on that. And he said, yep. He goes, everyone he's close to, he wrecks. And I said,
well,
all right, buddy. I mean, whatever. Like I said, I'm from Oklahoma, so I'm sure I'll get all kinds of hate in the comments over the Cannon comment. But it's not like it's a secret, so it is what it is. And he did so well at the Chili Bowl this week that
hey,
you gotta, whatever.
I thought Pursley was a good hire.
Anyways.
I'll leave it go at that. I thought Pursley was a good hire.
I agree. I thought that was kind of an across the board. Sure, everyone hates somebody. I get that part too.
Yep.
But I just, that was the first I had ever heard of that point of view about Pursley. So I don't know. Different strokes for different folks, Jeremy.
There you go. That's right. You can't sometimes you just let people think what they want.
That's right. All righty, man. You have a good night. Thanks for taking the call.
Thanks, Pete. I appreciate it.
See you, man.
Yep. Take care. All right. See you at Volusia on the 7th. Hopefully, Jeremy, I will be there. Yes. 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th. Yep. I will be at Volusia. What do you think about ASCS going all the way to Viking Speedway in Alexandria, Minnesota? It's 400 miles to the nearest 360 track, Knoxville, right before the 360 Nationals. It tells me that they are looking for races. It doesn't seem like a great trip, but new speedway, new market, Minnesota. I really don't have a lot of thoughts on it, but it seems like a long trip before the Nationals. I don't know. I don't really have a lot of thoughts on that. It just seems like they're struggling for races a little bit. Let's get 100 likes tonight, everyone. Support Sprint Car Unlimited. I appreciate that. Thank you. Will Axum's win at Chili Bowl raise his stock on the sprint car side of the industry like it has others who have conquered Chili Bowl? Whose stock has went through the roof because they won Chili Bowl? Larson's stock was high when he won Chili Bowl to begin with. Christopher Bell's stock was high when he won Chili Bowl. Tanner Thorson, he still had to earn his way at high limit. Nothing was really given to him. That's a family deal. So I don't think Tanner Thorson stock was on the rise. I still think he had to prove himself in a wing car. Back through Logan Seavey. He went to USAC and did well in USAC, but he was going to do that anyway. So I don't think it's going to raise or lower Axum's stock. I think he's going to be in the Klossmeyer Petrie deal, and I would assume he's going to go World of Outlaws racing. I know that's kind of seems to be the consensus out there. He was testing in Volusia this week. So I don't think it raises or lowers his stock. I just think it's a nice win for him. I think it's always good when you have a different winner. I don't think that's ever bad. So, but I don't think it raises his stock. He's still with a team that kind of has kind of brought him into the winged ranks. So I don't think an influx of owners or new owners are going to call him. There's just not many rides available. So I just think it's kind of as far as his winged sprint car career, I think it's a push. 360 race on Tuesday at Marshalltown, the week of the Knoxville Nationals. Yeah, again, good luck. It's guess it's an open date. I mean, look, the week of Knoxville, I like that Tuesday break. I like it a lot. So I will not be going to Marshalltown. I know a lot of guys do. They like it, meaning there's fans who really like going there, and they say it's good racing. It's just not, enough racing that week. Buddy Schwabians has announced the 2026 schedule, and it includes a healthy 38 race Central PA schedule. How do you think they will fare? I liked what I saw from him, obviously, especially at New Egypt. So, I'm anxious to see how he develops and how he performs, especially in Central Pennsylvania, bigger tracks. I think that's something he needs to get accustomed to. So he's looked pretty good. So yeah, I'm anxious to see it. We need more. We need younger guys in Central PA. We need some younger guys, and we need some new talent, kind of to freshen things up a little bit. So I'll be anxious to see how he performs in those 38 shows. Any new upgrades to the local Central PA tracks besides putting on clay? Will Lincoln Speedway ever update their fourth-turn bathroom facilities? Not a good look for new race fans. I do not have any updates on Lincoln's bathrooms. I know that people have talked about the Baps Motor Speedway and Lincoln Speedway bathrooms, and I could see some changes in the future. I haven't heard anything right now. As far as upgrades, I know Baps Motor Speedway is doing something with their front stretch wall. In fact, I think Colton Gauss is putting jersey barriers up tonight because of possible snow and frigid temperatures the rest of the week. And speaking of Baps, we will be giving away 2 tickets to the $5 race in June, like we have been in the last few weeks. It'll be on the half hour, so it'll be 8, 8:30, and 9. So you just call in to Eric. We'll give you those. Also, Racing Extravaganza coming up on I believe it's the 30th and 31st in York. That's a show you want to check out. It kind of kicks off the Central Pennsylvania season. But I don't see any upgrades other than what Baps Motor Speedway is doing. I would expect, right now it's kind of tough because of the weather, especially with the impending snow coming. It's just, good luck. It's just not, that's always a tough sell. Always a tough sell in the weather like this. Makes it, the ground's frozen. Can't really do a ton. Jeremy gets to use VIP suite bathrooms at tracks. He doesn't go to the bathroom with the peasants. No, I go in the Job Johns in the pit area at Lincoln. Let's see. Port Royal, where there's a bathroom in the pit area, I use it, or the Job Johns at Eldora. Eldora, I use the media center, yes, because I'm in the media center. But it depends where I'm at, and I'm not above using a Job John. So incorrect, Sugar Bear, trying to start stuff. Trying to be a rabble rouser right out of the gate. Any news on commitment for NARC or All-Stars? No, and I don't expect you'll see a lot of that on the NARC side. Those guys just kind of show up, and I'm not expecting a bunch of announcement. All-Stars, they don't start until April. So I think we got a lot of time before those announcements start rolling in. There's no reason to do it now. So I don't think you're going to see a bunch, and especially NARC, you're not going to see a bunch of announcements. Will Kofoid be ready for Volusia? That's been very quiet. I do understand that he has some kind of illness. I hope he's ready. That it's been quiet. I don't know. I can't answer that. I would assume he will be okay. I don't know. It's been quiet. I've reached out to him and basically I wished him well, and that was it. The same I would do with any driver who was in that position. And, I talked to these guys enough and there was no really answer as to what was going on. So either way, it must be serious. It kept him out, kept him out of Chili Bowl, kept him out of Australia, from going back to Australia. So hopefully he'll be back for Volusia. That would suck if he doesn't. Does Carson Macedo have a future in what? Does Cannon McIntosh, have a future in 410 wing sprint car racing, or does he need to curb that cannonball ways before considering making the full-time jump? Yeah, I don't understand why guys can get away with that. And I don't care if it's Cannon McIntosh or I don't care if it's anybody. There's no rules to stop it. And that's a problem. I mean, that deal at Chili Bowl, I don't know how that's not some penalty or something. There's nothing for it. And I don't understand that. And this is why I don't like midget racing. It happens there more than anywhere, it seems like. So it's one of the reasons I'm not a big fan of it. So yes, he does need to curb that if he gets in a 410 sprint car, to answer your question. And I don't understand why there's not more of a penalty for it, or it's more frowned upon. My question is, does somebody have to get killed before we do something about it? He's had a lot of run-ins now. And at some point, something has to be done about it. But yes, if you're going to get in a 410 sprint car, maybe he doesn't even want to. I would think that some of that needs to be curtailed. I mean, look, Fred Raymer coming out of modifieds, he was rammy in the late 80s, and then somebody put him over the wall at Lincoln. And then it slowed down a bit. They'll teach you a lesson. So yeah, I would recommend that he definitely stops that stuff. When will Babs Motor Speedway release their 2016 schedule? It'll be this week at Motorsports. What is the second best class of racing? Non-wing sprint cars, big block modifieds, or super late models? I would say super late models. Look at all the stars they have. Look at the amount of money those guys make. Now, I'm a sprint car guy, so you could say 410 sprint cars are second. Super late model guys make a ton of money. Davenport earned $2 million in a year. No sprint car guy's done that, nor have they gotten close. Buddy Kofoid earned $800,000 last year. That's not close to $2 million. So you can make the argument super late models is first because of the number of big races they have, and 410 sprint cars is second. I think that's probably more accurate. There was an interesting YouTube comment on today's 90 at 9. The comment thinks sprint car racing should only be 305 and 410 engines, totally eliminating the 360. Thoughts on that? It's a tough one. I'm not in that camp. Okay, I don't view it that way. I think I'm more of a 410, 360, 305. I'm okay now with the 358s here because the 360s are obsolete in central Pennsylvania. So here we have 410s, 358s, 305s. I'm good with that. I mean, I think I don't think just anybody could go from a 305 to a 410. I like the bridge. So, and if you take 360 to racing away, California go down the tubes. So I think 360s is fine. And 358, which would be 358s in central Pennsylvania. Who's the most underrated sprint car driver right now, in your opinion? Underrated. I love these questions on the spot. I actually got to think, and I truly do like that. Underrated right now. I'm kind of going through my mental Rolodex here of guys. See, to some people, the answer, because they don't think much of guys. Like, I think Aaron Reitzel's better than most people think Aaron Reitzel is. But is he underrated? No. I think Justin Sanders is better than probably some people think. I'll divide it. I'll do it by series. World of Outlaws. Give me, I think we're going to see Sheldon's better than what we think he is. He's still wild and he's got to settle down, but when he settles down, he can win a national open. So all right. Sorry, guys. Once everything went off, everything went dark. So I don't know if it's pretty windy here and it's about 10 degrees. So I apologize for that. Might have been my laptop as well. I don't know, but looks like the phones went out. We're on the chat only tonight. So I apologize. Who's the most underrated sprint car driver? So most underrated overall. God, that's such a hard question. Such a hard question. I have to think about that. Give me a little bit to think about it as I go through the other questions. I don't want to hold people up. So sorry about that. I'll answer that. Let me think about it. That's a real tough one. It's a real tough one. I don't know what happened to us there. You said before that California develops sprint car drivers faster than PA. What does PA need to do to catch up with California? It's not that they produce them faster. I just think they're younger. I think the outlaw karts is huge. Now, Babs Motor Speedway has an outlaw karts division at McGrew-Bid, so I think that could help. We just need better feeder systems, I think. I also believe that people in this area get a later start. They're more working class, I would say, than California. I think there's probably more money out there. And we just don't have the feeder system that they do in California. I think that's a big part of it. And it's not so much faster. They just start them younger, and they're younger when they come out of there. Update on Aaron Bollinger and the X Factor schedule, tracks, etc. I think it's going to be a pick and choose. I don't think they're going to be married to one track. They are not going to run the entire series. That I do know. I saw Aaron Bollinger at a Bears game, and they weren't going to run the entire series. So I think you could see him jump around a little bit. I think they'll still be based out of Lincoln, but I think they're going to want to run Port Royal maybe and Williams Grove and some other tracks. So I see 35 races, maybe 30 to 35 races, depending on rain and other things. And we'll see where they show up. But they're not going to run for points because there really isn't points at this juncture with the series. So track points are going to kind of be obsolete. So I expect to pick and choose. Congrats to our Babs Motor Speedway Eagle Air Aviation $5 Keystone Nationals 8 p.m. winner, Brittany Zinneman. Is that correct? Look at getting a thumbs up. So yes, congratulations. And now we'll have another drawing for that, for 2 more tickets for the Keystone, the Eagle Air Keystone Nationals at 8:30. Okay, let's get back to it. Hit that like, folks. Thank you. Appreciate it. Did Brent Marks find land there in Lebanon County yet? He posted on Facebook that he wanted land to build a new home and race shop. His parents live in Myerstown, so there's land out there. I don't know if he bought land yet or not, but I know there's land available in and around Lebanon County. And he's in Myerstown. His parents are about 5-10 minutes away from my father, where my father lives. And there's land out there for sale. So we'll see. Got to win more races. Who's your top 5 410 sprint cars drivers in the country, not in a series, and not named Larson or Sweet? Top 5 not in a series. Anthony Macri, number 1. I'd say Macri, Ryan Timms, Danny Dietrich and Justin Sanders are right there neck and neck with each other, 3rd, 4th, tied for 3rd. They're pretty interchangeable. I know I'm forgetting somebody. 5th, Chase Dietz. Any under the radar guys or locals to keep an eye on next week for the 360s at Volusia? I'm going to talk about this tomorrow on the 90 at 9. Brian Brown will be going to Volusia for the 360s. I talked to him today. We're going to do a 90 at 9 on updating his injury tomorrow. And also, I will have a story on SprintCarUnlimited.com that kind of goes into his situation more in depth than just the 90 at 9. That'll also be on SprintCarUnlimited.com tomorrow. So I think Brian Brown's a guy to definitely keep an eye on, because A, he wasn't supposed to be there. B, he's coming off an injury. So I think that would be an under the radar guy. So he's at this point. Otherwise, I don't really know everyone who's going to be there. I'm not going to say Justin Peck because, dominated last year. So, somebody just posted that Tyler Courtney's also racing 360s. So, yeah, I mean, guys who are injured, coming off injury, those are the guys to watch, tuning up for the 410s. So I agree. Ohio residents need to get in touch with the representatives and support Bill 639. It's the nuisance law for racetracks. There you go. We even got politicking on SprintCarUnlimited.com. Yeah, that's a slippery slope, that whole nuisance thing. Because it doesn't matter who's there first. That isn't something that really comes into play. It depends on your township. It depends on your relationship with your town. My suggestion to racetracks, get on the good side of your local municipalities, townships, counties. You got to get in bed with them. So you gotta have a good relationship with them. It could make the difference between your track being there and not being there. That's my suggestion. How many engines does Buddy blow in the what? Blow in the 1W? I don't think they have many engines to blow. Let's hope none. I feel bad for John. John has motor trouble every year. I keep rooting for him. He's a good guy. Just, I don't know. It's odd when you don't see smoke coming out of that thing. So I hope none, but probably 3. Will you be at Motorsports Expo this weekend? I will not. And considering the weather forecast, definitely not. Definitely not. I got a hockey game Friday night, and it's Wilkes-Barre Scranton coming into town, so I'm not going to miss that. And Saturday, the snow's supposed to arrive. Will Justin Grant ever make the leap to 410 wings? He's run 9 410 winged races in his career. I believe he raced in Ohio for a little bit. I don't know. I mean, again, it's so hard to get a ride. He would probably have to do something through NOS and his own deal, and I just don't think he's willing to do that at this point. So I would say no. I would say he's pretty content building, just, I don't want to say dominating non-wing, but he's the main guy. I mean, him and Cummins, but Cummins isn't going to be doing it much longer. So yeah, I don't think so. I doubt it. Give us your top 3 overrated drivers. Oh, overrated. Man, that's as bad as underrated, because everybody looks at everybody differently. Well, look, I do think we anoint people way too fast. Tanner Holmes is anointed. Caleb Montgomery has been anointed. I would say they're overrated because they really haven't proven a lot yet. So those are two guys who need to show me more. Now, are they overrated? Yeah, by how people talk about them. I think in Central Pennsylvania, you win 2 races and all of a sudden, you're a world beater. So I would say those two have something to show yet. I'm trying to think of people on a national tour. By the way, underrated Tanner Thorson. I was wrong. By the way, just thinking along those same lines. He showed me that he's underrated. Needs to be better at big tracks, so I'm trying to think of a third, Lauda. I'm trying to think of a third. And I hate to go to the West Coast again. I'm trying to avoid the West Coast because I said 2 guys from the West Coast. I'd like to say Central Pennsylvania. It's kind of, we don't do that. We don't overrate guys. On tour, I'll tell you who needs to step up is Logan Schuchart. Needs to have better years. Last couple of years have been a struggle, and it makes you kind of think what's going on there. And this year is going to be even tougher without Bobby. I don't want to say overrated because he won $1 million race. He's won a lot of sprint car races. Let me think on the third one. Great to see Flo FS1 announcement on broadcasting 6 live sprint car shows this season. A great boost to the sport. Crickets from Dirt Vision. Yeah, I mean, I guess, but remember, this has been Dirt Vision did this before. Like, the Outlaws have done this. So I'm not going to criticize Dirt Vision when they did it first. That doesn't make much sense. So I think it's good that there are 6 races on FS1. The Eldora show, they had weather and whatnot, so that kind of screwed things up. We'll see. We'll see how it develops. We'll see if it's sustainable. I'd like to know what the deal is. I would like to know if there's some paid programming going on. I don't know if there is. I don't know if is FS1 paying High Limit and Flow, or is Flow buying airtime? I'd like to know the deal there. I'm not saying it is or isn't. I'm saying I'd like to know the deal. Because the Outlaws used to have to pay on the CBS Sports deal. So I'm a little, I'd say cautiously optimistic is the phrase I would use. Is beating T-Mez in New Zealand in a 410 sprint car worthy of a 90 at 9? No. Not in the least. Not even on my radar. Any word on what car Brad Sweet might run this year? Silva W or maybe another KKR car? I will say that it is not another KKR car. I will have more on this in the next couple weeks. I have talked to Brad, but I'm not going to say now what car he's going to be in. So, but he has said he won't be with KKR. He has said that. Casey's coming back. You have Dason Pursley. They're not putting a third car on the track. Not doing it. Those days are over. Has any of the tracks in PA added new clay for 2026? It seems to be quiet about it. I know Lincoln did not. I do believe that Williams Grove has. And I know Baps did. I believe Baps did it actually before the Sprint Showdown And Port Royal, they usually do. So I think Lincoln might be the only car that hasn't. Oh, I know people want to say the W car for Brad. Don't be too sure on that yet. Any opinion on all the late model drama from the Wild West shootout? I saw Justin Fiedler talking about that, and it's wild. Sometimes I wish we had that in sprint car racing because it'd give me more to talk about. Look, doing 90 at 9s in January can sometimes be tough, but those guys get after it. That super late model stuff, it's something going on all the time. When you cover those guys, it's never a dull moment. I mean, it's January for crying out loud, and they're already fighting. So, man, I don't know. Oh, we got penalties in the Bears game. Sorry. Go ahead. So, my opinion is, I mean, if you're covering it, it's great content. It's great content. Any word on McIntosh running more races with Roth? No. I have not heard anything about McIntosh running more races with Roth. And getting information out of Roth Motorsports is probably the hardest one for me. It's easier for me to get information out of KKR, and KKR is tough. So while I've not heard anything, I don't expect to, because even if I call them, it is really, really tough. It was really, really tough to do that. I wish it was better, but they're closed-lipped, and they just don't return calls. So you just can't get anything out of them. So if there is, I'd say it's a handful, 4 or 5 maybe. I don't think it'll be more than that. Since we're having phone issues this evening, we will be giving away 2 extra sets of tickets to Babs Motor Speedway's Eagle Air Aviation $5 Keystone Nationals next week. There you go. Eric made the call. Showing some executive decision-making there, buddy. I like it. Has Brent Marks announced his crew for this season? Yeah, he has a crew. They're pretty young. I believe they're pretty young. And so, yeah, no, he has a crew. Do you see more Toyotas coming into sprint car racing after Buddy's success this year? Yeah, I think they're going to be sold to teams. I think that's going to ramp up in the next couple of years. So, yeah, I do see that. I see Toyota becoming more of a fixture. What is the best regional 410 sprint car tour right now? I still think it's I'd love to see Central PA and California go at it. I think Central PA is a little better. I think California, and here's how I figure it. I don't think Ohio's in the mix. Knoxville, if they ran at Knoxville, yes. They have, but let's compare them. Here you have Anthony Macri, who's the best regional racer in the country. I don't think anybody'd argue that. Then you have Danny Dietrich. Danny Dietrich and Justin Sanders, who's the best on the West Coast, they're close. Brian Brown has a tough score of 50. He's coming off injury. He's good in the Midwest. Here, he can hit big with a tough score of 50 and Sealands Grove, but then when you get him on some of the smaller stuff, it's Grandview or Williams Grove. But he's won. You know what? Brian Brown has performed well here, better than I thought at times. So, but still, from a consistency standpoint, I just think it's Central Pennsylvania. Troy Wagaman has been good. Chase Dietz had a great year last year. He beat the World of Outlaws. There's, again, at Williams Grove, a place that he wasn't always good at last year. I thought he was better actually in his car at the Grove. So I just think there's a little more depth in Central Pennsylvania. So, and Macri's the tipping point. Macri gives them the edge. So I'd say Central PA, and I'm definitely not a homer. Definitely not. Where's Jeremy's cat? I don't know. She's probably sleeping on my bed right now. She usually takes my spot in the couch. As soon as I leave the couch, she jumps there. But I think she's on my bed. And no, I'm not going to show you my bed, Sugar Bear, as much as you want to see it. I understand what Sweet and Rudine are doing with the big 3 race series now for 410s on the West Coast, but making Trophy Cup a 410 race now is a huge mistake. California doesn't have enough 410 cars. I did the 90 at 9 on this today. So the question to me is, can they get 40 cars with travelers? Okay, because it's Halloween weekend. Do some guys skip Charlotte and get rides on the West Coast, or that's the question. That's the real question. So I don't think it's a mistake. Look, I heard the crowd was not as big this year. It's a 360. The car count keeps going down. Didn't they have 80 a couple years ago? 2022, 2023, 70, 80. This year it was 59. So obviously there's a drop off. And they want to resurrect 410 racing. So in order to do that, you've got to make a commitment to it. You may not like the move, and it may blow up in their face. As I said today, I don't know if it's going to work, but if you're going to make this commitment to 410 racing or improving 410 racing, then you've got to commit. Firm commitment. This is them making that commitment. So if they get 35, 40 cars, you don't have to change format. You won't have as many heat races, but you still can do your inversions. You can still invert the feature. You can still do all that stuff. It doesn't change the format or anything else that makes the Trophy Cup, I guess, stand out. And you might get more stars. Whether anybody wants to believe it or not, stars sell this sport. Compare your big races with your weekly shows where nobody's, you don't have national touring guys. There's a reason the World of Outlaws and the high limit draw bigger crowds. It's because it's the best guys. So if they can get some of those guys to instead of going to Charlotte, go out to Trophy Cup, it's a win. So, and it might take time. You can't judge them after 1 year. You got to they're going to have to build it. They're not going to get 60, 70 cars now, but I don't know. I'm not going to poo-poo it yet. I don't think it's a mistake because they were trending down. So you want to commit to 410s? Well, now we're committing to 410s and we'll see how it goes. Cameron Smith is definitely underrated. I don't know, man. He's getting a lot of pub in this area. I've talked about him. I mean, I did a 90 at 9 on him. So, yeah, I think he's coming along. Underrated. He's only won, 4 or 5 races? 4? 3, 4? I mean, he's young. 3, 4 races. 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? 3, 4? But again, underrated? I don't think underrated. But I like what he's doing. Weekend football picks. Well, I'm going to go with New England. I don't trust Jared Stidham. You'll have to excuse me on that. Although anything can happen in Mile High. Seattle's on a tear. But that Seattle Rams game, they're so even. I think there was a stat box yesterday that they're separated by like 1 or 2 yards total in 2 games, and points, like 1 or 2 points. It's very, very even. That's a tough game to call. I mean, Seattle, man, I don't. You know what? I'm going to go with the Rams. I think they didn't play that great in Chicago. The offense was horrible. I thought McVay, when he said he called a bad game, I agree 100%. A lot of short passing early, little slants across the middle. Linebackers couldn't stay with Nakua, and then they went away from it. They started throwing downfield more in -8-degree weather. I didn't understand the game plan. They drive down the field, score, and then they went away from that. So I'm going to take the Rams and I'm going to take the Patriots. Do you ever see Dodge coming back to sprint car racing with TSR and NHRA being a Mopar team and Tony doing a NASCAR truck race with Ram? No, I do not. I don't think would be enough demand for it. So no, I don't think Mopar ends up in sprint car racing. Do you think the smaller bull rings in California help develop the drivers faster? I think it definitely helps. I think these guys are dodging landmines out there. I think they're not perfectly manicured. I think, it's rough. It can be I think you got a lot of weapons out there in lap traffic. Absolutely. I think California teaches you to race better or be a better racer. Absolutely. 100%. Any update on Justin Whittle's 2026 plans? I thought I heard the family team was shutting down. I don't know if it's shutting down, and I'm unsure of his plans. I know he was trying to get a ride on the road. I know he's not working in the family business anymore. He is now what you would consider a professional driver, and he was looking for a ride to travel more. It fell through from what I'm understanding, so I'm not sure of his status right now. Any merch updates? Yeah, actually, funny. Today or yesterday, or was it today? Today, I believe I got a text message from a local company that does merch, and I'm going to give him a call tomorrow and talk to him about it. So yes, that's as much as I got right now. Outside of Macri and Danny Dietrich, what other PA posse drivers will head down to Volusia? Dietz, Marks, Stutz, Wolf. I would expect, yes, Brent Marks to be there. TJ Stutz will be there. Lucas Wolf, no. I think, Dietz, I believe is going down, but I don't think he's not going down for 360s, I believe. So, you're going to have some Pennsylvania flavor down there. I've seen these kids in quarter midgets in Cali pull up in 24-foot trailers, load to the top with engines, and God, I can't read tonight. Sorry about that. I'm old, 53. I've seen these kids in quarter midgets in Cali pull up with 24-foot trailers loaded to the top with engines, and cars race every class. It's pretty insane, the money in California racing community. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't hurt. And we saw what it produces. Jet Barnes, 14 years old, goes to the Chili Bowl, finishes, what, he finished on the podium his qualifying night, and he was running top 10 in the A main. Yeah, pretty good. Makes me think it's not that hard. PPM, Cole Macedo, Hank Davis, Austin McCarl so far will be at 360s of Volusia. Seems like that field's pretty good. Thank you, Corey Neeshaw. I disagree with your Trophy Cup comment, but that's okay. Sorry I didn't play your Chili Bowl pool. It was racket. I was busy doing stuff. Corey does a great job with those pools. And yeah, no, that's interesting that those guys, that could be really, that's going to be a pretty good field. Jeremy, just curious, have you ever run into PJ or James Chesson since they hung it up? Those boys, it seemed like they had it all. Yeah, it just went different directions. James got out of it. I think he's running a family business. PJ, I tried his hand at IndyCar, and he was on the Howard Stern show. He was actually, he was dating, I believe, a Playboy Playmate or something. And Howard had her on, and PJ Chesson rolled into the studio. That's the guy that was with her. So I'd say they both still probably have it all at that point. But yeah, no, I have not run into him, but that's all the updates I have on the Chesson brothers. God, I'm struggling tonight with my eyes. I don't know why. Jim from Buffalo, currently interviewing for Bill's head coaching position. Give him a vote of confidence. You know, it's a shame we don't have the phones working tonight. I apologize for that. That's probably on my end. Somebody said, if Jim's listening, come on, just give us a thumbs up that you're okay. I don't know about the firing of McDermott. I mean, I have a lot of thoughts on that game. I have a lot of thoughts on the officiating and also McDermott. So if you guys want to talk about that, you can ask. But just give us a wellness check, Jim. Chessons are both doing well in New Jersey, involved in family business. There you go. Yeah, I didn't think they'd be doing bad. Thank you, Neil. Who has more high limit wins in 2026, Rico or Courtney? Rico. Donnie Scott's stats last season: 67 races, 0 wins, 11 top fives, and 1 quick time. If he doesn't improve this season, what's your opinion on his future? I would say what's it say? I mean, I'd say it's over or it's not good. I mean, I'd say it's short time. I mean, Donnie's going to be around as long as he wants. I mean, the stats are not going to be that bad this year. They're not. They can't be. Those stats cannot be worse. He's going to be in the same car. Same car. He's not going to be jumping around to 5 different cars to finish the season. The stats won't be as bad. So it's kind of a moot point, but I mean, obviously if he doesn't perform again, it's the cat calls are coming from the stands. And I mean, he has to think about, then it might be over. So, but it won't be as bad. Dating a playmate seems like a good way to lose it all. Not every playmate can be bad, can they? I've never dated one. Just look at my face. There's no chance of that. So, I don't know. I don't know what they're like. I've never been around one. What's the over-under for Sammy Swindell finally retiring from racing? Are you kidding me? There's no chance of that. None. I think the chances are slim. Let me check the Bears score quick. 3-1. God, that's bad. That Hartford team isn't good. Go ahead. Were you able to ask Brian Brown on the Charlie Garrett retirement and who will be building or maintaining his motors in the future? I did talk to him about that. And yes, Charlie Garrett is retiring, and you got to read the story on SprintCarUnlimited.com for that. Sorry. I know. It's how I earn a living. But yes, I did talk to him about that. He mentioned it on his own. So, it's 4-1 now. That's terrible. Jeremy, who are the top 3 female sprint car drivers in your lifetime in the universe? I assume you mean regardless of division? Clarify that for me if you can in the chat, or just sprint cars, because there haven't been many in sprint cars. So, and Crocker, I guess. As far as, again, not many. Judy Bates ran. She has a win at Port Royal. Oh, sprint cars only? You're killing me, buddy. Judy Bates won a race at Port Royal. Again, it was a Crocker one on the West Coast with the Outlaws. I'm trying to think of any who have run 410s. There's a couple on the West Coast who run 360s. I don't know. That's all I got on that one. Sprint cars only. Sugar Bear. Do you follow much late model stuff? If so, any predictions for both Woo Champion and Lucas Oil Champions for 2026? I do follow it enough that to be dangerous. Like, I know Davenport isn't going to run a series this year. I don't think all their commitments are in yet. Pierce will win. I assume he's back with the Outlaws. Pierce will win that. I don't see anybody beating him. And then Lucas, I don't think Lucas doesn't, and Fiedler was right when he said they don't really put stuff out as to who's running their series. So it's tough to know. I really don't know everybody who's running Lucas. I know Jonathan Davenport isn't. So I think Shepard is. McCready, I would assume. So Hudson O'Neill, I would assume. I just don't know what cars they're in, so I haven't really researched it, but Pierce definitely. Aaron Crocker, Paige Polyak. Yep, Cheryl Glass. Yeah, Paige Polyak, she times well. Becca Anderson, Judy Bates, Sarah Fisher. Yeah, I forgot about Sarah Fisher. Sarah Fisher climbs that. I'd say she's second. I'd put Sarah Fisher second. Definitely. Mara Stelfox. Yeah. You got to have a win to be on the list, though. Got to have a win. Lady Lightning, Paige Polyak. Well, not Polinek. It's Polyak. But yeah, no, I like Paige. Shauna Wilski. Okay. I like the names. I know these are blasts from the past. Yeah, I remember Becca Anderson. Really didn't run 410s, though. It's kind of 360. Is Casey Kane running limited sprint car schedule this year? From what I gather, yes. He's going to travel around. I don't think it's limited. If you mean not a series, yes, limited. But he's going to run a lot of races. He's just going to be bouncing around and pick and choose. Darren Maris win URC again. It's URC. No offense. I don't put that series is almost dead. And now it was when she ran it, it was better, definitely better. I'm not going to deny that. But again, a 410 win and a URC win aren't the same. Eric is throwing away money tonight. How so, Sugar Bear? How so? And Eric just gave this sign, the shrug sign on. So, all right. Has Carson Macedo announced a series yet? No, but he will run the World of Outlaws. He will definitely be running World of Outlaws. Will there be a deep dive in podcast this week? Yes, there will. Yes, there will. I'm working on the deep dive now. Podcast will be taped tomorrow. Been some other stuff going on. Jessica Zemkin, Lauda with putting that up. Yep. She had some really good runs up in New York. Over under for Pursley win total. 3. Is this the year Pittman gets Kreitz a big win? Goes well at Skagit. I know he didn't have a good year last year in the 14 there, but Kreitz car is a little different. I think he'll definitely perform better there. At some point, I can't help thinking he's going to win the National Open. That might just be me hoping he wins the National Open because it'd just be such a great story after all the futility he's had there. A big win. Now, it'd have to be Super Dirt Cup, Knoxville Nationals, or Williams Grove National Open to constitute big. Maybe they run Texas again. But yeah, I think he gets a big win for him this year somewhere. And by that, I mean 20,000 or more, 25,000 or more, something like that. Brian Brown wins a non-Knoxville feature this year, over under 1.5. Over. Grandview is a great bull ring for the 410s. The Thunder on the Hill races were some of the best. They only have the 410s one time a year now. It's twice. They have them for Pennsylvania Speed Week, and then they have the High Limit Show there. So they have them twice. Brent Marks went backwards in money earned the past 4 years. Was the crew change the reason why? No, I don't think 2022, when you win $600 and some $1,000 and you win the historical big one in Kings Royal, I don't think that that's the median. Okay, that's your top point. I think 400,000, 350, 400,000 is the median for that team. He won 400,000 the following year in 2023. More than that, in fact. And then it kind of dialed back. I don't think that's the reason for the crew changes. I just think there's an ebb and flow with these teams. They have good years and they kind of drop off, then they come back, and there's really only 7, 8 teams out there that seem to be consistently good every year. Just look at the stats. I just think that it's really tough to win over $400,000 every year. And to me, 350 to 400,000 for that team is kind of the benchmark, not the 630 or whatever it was they won in 2022. I think that's unrealistic to think that they're going to win that every year. Who knows, though? With the rising purses, that might become the benchmark. We'll see. Do 410s really make a difference on California bull rings as opposed to 360s? Well, if you're asking me what I'd rather be in, I'd rather be in a 410 running against the 360 in California. I don't see many 360 cars running against. If 360s were the same as 410s, then people would run them, wouldn't they? Against the 410s, and that usually doesn't work out too well. So I'm going to say that's not quite the true. However, to the fans in the stands, it probably doesn't matter to them because they've been seeing it for years. 360s have dominated in California as far as the premier division, and I think that's what Brad Sweet and Kevin Rudine are trying to change. I think they're trying to bring back the 410 division. So, does it matter? I think it matters getting stars. I don't think you're going to have many stars run 360s out there. So, and that sells. Macri Dietrich Dietz to dominate PA Sprint Series. Same for the less funded teams. Central PA needs less time trial shows and more handicap shows. If not, car counts will dwindle and not return. Here's the thing about car counts in Central PA. Back when Jerry Regal was alive, we talked about car counts all the time. And then they would level out during the year and it wouldn't be an issue. We'd start the year talking about it because these cold weather races would get lower car counts and then it would bolster through the season. Babs Motor Speedway, the last 2 years has averaged 38 and 36. Port Royal was 36 last year. All the tracks were pretty close to 30 or a little above. So now you're going to throw the PA Posse Sprint Series in. Yes, they're going to be time trial shows, except the ones at the beginning of the year. They will be draw because they're daylight shows. I understand the thinking. I think where it hurts is, where it's going to hurt Pennsylvania most is your guys like a Chris Knopp's son, Jude Siegel, guys like that who need handicap shows because they'll start at the back, and when they can start racing, their dads will let them start up front, or the teams will let them start up front. Then they can cut their teeth and get better. So I understand handicap shows from that point of view. And you need those because teams around here need, time trial shows are never going to start up front. Or it's not. So, yes, more handicap shows does not necessarily mean better racing at this point because of the parity in the sport. Everybody can buy speed in a box. So it's not like 1985 or 1990, 95, even 2000, where you can pass a ton of cars. Because when you have 24 cars within 0.2, 0.3 of a second in time trials, or just even in hot laps, you're not going to pass on a big track. So it's a slippery slope. I understand people wanting handicap and shows and the scenes from yesteryear. Well, yesteryear is over and the sport's changed. I'd like to see a few more handicap shows just so these younger guys can get some laps at the front of the field. But I just think it's a thing of the past, unfortunately. And I do think parity has to do with that. I understand your thoughts, though. We'll see what the car counts do. What's a handicap show? So They go by money earned over the last 3 races, and they invert in a heat race, say 8. And then if you get into the top 3 or 4, if it's a 3 heat format, it'll be the top 4, and that based on car count. And they get handicapped into the top 12. You know, if it's 3 heats, it's the top 4. If it's 4 heats, it's the top 3. You end up into the top 12, and then you're handicapped by that same money earned with the high man starting 12 or 8th or however many they do it. And that's a handicap show. A true handicap show. The Grove does something where they handicap the heat races, but if you win the heat, you start up front in the feature. Wherever you finish, that's where you start in the feature. So that it's handicap for the heats, but not the feature. Posse would look bad at Placerville, Tulare, and Chico. I think Anthony Macri would be fine. He looked good at Tulare the first time he saw it. Freddie Raymer didn't. But the California guys that are out there now, I'm not talking about Buddy Kofoid. I'm not talking about Carson Macedo or Gio. I'm talking about the guys out there now. They're going to struggle at the Grove. They're going to struggle at Port Royal. Baps, probably an equalizer. Grandview, they'd be okay. So I think it works both ways. But, yeah, the guys who've already come out of there, I mean, it took them a little time. Still took them a little time. Not much. I mean, some quicker than others. Brad Sweet, it took time. Carson won right away, but he got in a car that was always good there. He also won that opening day deal where he drew up front. But the current guys in California would struggle at the Grove. Jeremy, when you make merch, can you make a work area shirt? No, we're not doing novelty shirts, okay? I'm not getting into that. That's no. I'm not doing a work area shirt. Get out of here. Please tell me the Bears scored. Oh, good. It's 4-2. What's up? Will NASCAR dabble in dirt again at Knoxville or Eldora? I don't know. I don't think so. It's been done. Why would they stop it? If it works so much, why would they stop it? I don't see them doing it again. Any thoughts on IMCA stock cars? My Mr. Mallet seems to love them. That's fine. I have no thoughts on IMCA stock cars. None at all. Did David Gravel race much in PA before he went big time? Where was the region he got experience? He ran with the All-Stars, ran in Ohio, he ran in PA. Yeah. He ran in that Northeast region or that Northeast corridor. 89G. Tyler Swank actually worked for him on that car. So, David Gravel, if you want to say it, I mean, he cut his teeth in PA and that Ohio deal, not on the road even. So, not much dirt sprint car racing in Connecticut. Any news on what PPM is doing this year? I would assume it's the same. I know I talked to him last year. I believe it was Port Royal. He really liked the schedule, the freedom of his schedule to get home, interests outside of sprint car racing. I could see him back in the Bernie Stubjen car this year. I've heard nothing different from him. Great to see Indiana Hoosiers win the NCAA football title. Lots of sprint car fans happy. Sorry, Ohio. That was a good story. What is the definition of a catch in the NFL? Okay. So everybody's upset about this Brandon Cooks deal down the field in overtime. It was ruled correctly. The problem is, in the last 10 years, the definition of a catch has gotten too convoluted. There's 4 criteria for a catch now. Ball in hand, secure it, then make a football move and secure it to the ground. Those are the 4 in layman's terms. I mean, yeah, I could read them all to you, but the problem is 90 to 95% of fans are used to the way it used to be, which was a lot. I would use the word cavalier on what a catch was. It was a lot simpler. They made the rule too confusing. So, and Loud is right. Surviving the ground. That's the 4th one. Security again. You got to secure it. So all of that's, it's just, but as they ruled it on the field, it was correct. He was starting to lose it as he was coming, as he didn't survive the ground and the other guy had it. So yeah, but they made the right call. It was not a bad call. If you want to criticize the interference that got Denver down there, okay. I mean, I get it. But as for that, yeah, it was ruled correctly. I just think people don't understand the rule anymore, which you can argue what's right and what's wrong. But if 90% of your fans don't understand it, it's wrong. That's not good for the sport from a just strictly viewership standpoint. But it was called correctly. Who will have a better season, Donnie or Brennan? Donnie. Robert Ballou, the madman, has been cleared to return to racing. That's good for you, Sat. Over under Sammy versus Thorson. As far as what? Thorson. In every probably way you can mention. When is the Outlaws announcing the West Coast dates? And what's the chance that they wait till the season gets underway and teams are committed to the Outlaws and then announce those dates are canceled? Ooh, sticky, spicy. Man, I don't think they do that. That would be such a bad move. That would be such a bad move. I don't think they do that. Do other people think they do that? I mean, you could say why not, but I don't think they're going to cancel those dates. I think the problem is Calistoga's up in the air I think it's High Limit and the World of Outlaws. I think that's the hang up. I think Calistoga, and I think there's a battle for Calistoga a little bit, and we'll see who comes out on top. Because I've heard Calistoga for both those series, and I don't think they're going to run both of those series. So we'll see what happens. I think the Stockton thing with the promoter getting hurt in a car crash, I think that's kind of, held things up a little bit as well. I don't think they're going to cancel that swing, though. Should drivers be allowed to fist fight over disagreements, or should the series operators forbid it? I don't know. I'm split on it. I think it would take care of some. You know what? I don't want to see WWE on the front stretch. Come on. I just don't. And don't say it's the same as hockey. Hockey, it's within the framework of the game. And when I say that, if somebody takes a run at, I'd say Connor McDavid, but he can fight. McKinnon for Colorado, who's a goal scorer. There's going to be somebody, or a goalie for that matter. You take a run at a goalie, you're going to get smacked in the chops. That's just the way it is. It's part of the culture of the sport. And it doesn't happen every game even. I've gone to how many games this year and there hasn't been a fight. So I don't like things to turn into WWE on the front stretch. I think it's dumb. I just think it's dumb. Hey, you're going to smack a guy, do it in private out, in the pit area and make your point and then leave. Thoughts on Steven Snyder Jr. doing more in the 410 sprints? He looked very good in the Chili Bowl races. He looked very good at Eldora last year. He was running in the top 10 when Aaron Reitzel flipped and got injured. Steven Snyder was the guy who came in late. He was running like 7th or 8th. So I like Steven Snyder Jr. a lot, and I'm anxious to see how he performs as he gets more 410 sprint car experience. Looking back, what was your favorite story to write in 2025? Good question. I always like breaking news stories because, it's you're scrambling to get it. Sometimes it gets frustrating when you can't get get people's comments or whatnot. I love breaking news stories. The Ryan Timms Knoxville Nationals column was fun to write just because it was something new. It was fresh. It was different. And then I came back the next week and was able to write another column about him. Instead of race results from big races, I write opinionated columns usually on the winner. So those stories. So I'd say, even though it wasn't good for Donnie Schatz, even though it wasn't good for Brad Sweet retiring, those stories where you can really, I like the Brad Sweet one because Casey spoke and there was emotion behind it. It had every component to it. And I watched Brad Sweet since he won the King's Royal in the Ollie's car. So, Donnie Schatz was just the end of an era in the TSR car. And then, of course, like I said, the Ryan Timms columns, just because they were different. Those are the 3 that stand out the most. Jeremy, top 3 most shocking breaking news of your career besides deaths or injuries. Oh, number 1 has to be the Anthony Macri Motorsports. That one is definitely in the top 3. The DeWeese Kreitz one that came, a week later, those 2 were huge stories. Just trying to. I mean, I've had so many breaking news stories. Those 2 just jump right off the page. I'd have to think of a third. I'll tell you one, David Gravel and CJB splitting. That was such a delicate story to write because there wasn't necessarily good things said on either side on that one. So I would say those 3 are probably the most high profile ones that come to mind. Any thoughts on how Aiden Hare's rookie 410 season will go? No, not yet. Again, I don't anoint people too fast. I don't like to do that. I like to take a wait and see. People can say that that's wrong, that I should just commit. you know what? It's not easy being a 410 sprint car driver, especially depending where you're racing. So I'm going to take a wait and see, and we'll see how he does. Fred Raymer and Lance DeWeese switching rides was huge back in the day. Yeah, I lived through that one as well. The problem is the social media reach was not as big then. So while, yes, it was big, there wasn't as much discussion about it because you didn't have the internet blowing up every, minute with it. So I do agree that was huge. And I mean, Greg Hodnett getting let go from the Hamilton car was a big deal. I mean, there's been a number of them. But if you're going to add just social media, whatever, I've been writing since 1997. I've been covering racing since 1997. So, yeah, there's been a lot of them. Who finishes 4th and 5th in the Outlaw standings? I'm going to say Sheldon is 4th and Schatz is 5th. Early prediction for Woo and High Limit champion. David Gravel for the World of Outlaws. High Limit, I'm going to go with Aaron Reitzel. Last year, my family and I went to the Woo Sprint Car Experience at Hershey Park Stadium. It was a good turnout, but should more PA teams show up and should the event be longer? I do think more PA teams should show up, and I'll tell you why. I think anytime you can promote your product, I think that only helps you sell more seats at the racetrack and also, in turn, merchandise. I absolutely believe that. Should it be longer? Maybe an hour, maybe a little extra hour, but they want to get people in and out. I understand it. But yeah, if it's another hour, I wouldn't have a problem. I wouldn't have a problem with that. Oh, I have another update. Oh, it's 4-3 now in the third. Look at that. Gold Bears. Yep. Thank you, Eric. I appreciate that. Jeremy, before your website, did you write about sprint car news in newspapers or newsletters? Newspapers. I covered it for Area Auto Racing News. Then they don't pay. So I once I went to the Patriot News, I wasn't going to work for free. It's my time. It takes a lot of time sometimes to write. Probably wasn't as quick in those days as well. So, and then I at the Patriot News. So yes, I covered at a daily newspaper. Oh, the Bears scored again. That's good. They tied up 4-4. Good goaltending in that one. Jeremy, when other national series tried to compete with Woo, what ultimately was their downfall? USA was just a mess. They lasted 1 year. They just didn't get the participation. The World of Outlaws just was bigger and just it squashed them. 2006, it depends who you ask. Some people say it's when Fred Brownfield died. That killed NST. Others say that the World of Outlaws were going to beat him anyway and that Brownfield was going to sell it or whatever. So, I mean, it all depends who you believe on the 2006 deal. USA never really had a chance, I don't think. The drivers were involved. It wasn't. Drivers can't run a series. That's just, Brad Sweet can do it because I do think Brad looks at things a little different than those guys did. So I think his business acumen is probably higher. His family runs obviously Silver Dollar. I just think it's a different animal. So USA just wasn't gonna work. NST, it depends who you ask. Who funded USA? That's a good question. I do not know that. I was 17 years old then. I do not know, but you know what, Sugar Bear? I'm going to do some digging into that. I know a couple people who I can ask. It's a great question. Great question. If you start handicapping regularly, the teams will figure out how to pass and the tracks will be wider and racy. The follow the leader heats is what makes the tracks narrow. There's no proof to that. They'll figure out how to pass. Maybe. Look, you've got to, regardless, you've got to have haves and have-nots. You've got to have a speed difference. You don't pass at equal speeds. Now, yes, you will have some guys up front maybe who, you'll have some guys drop, but there's just going to be some nights where there's no passing. I don't think the racing would necessarily be bigger or better, I should say. I was reading the one Lauda quote or the one Lauda thing. So yeah, I don't necessarily believe that. I'm not saying you're wrong, but I'm not saying you're right either. That you're guessing. As far as the heat races are like that. Even when they handicap the heat races, the only reason they work is because, again, there's haves and have-nots. You have Troy Fraker starting on the front row. Again, there's a speed difference. You've got to have a difference somewhere for guys to be able to pass. The tracks are narrow because they're heavy at that point, especially in cold weather or if it's cooler. I mean, the Grove has a tendency, it's not guaranteed they're going to be wider and racier. That's not a guarantee. But I mean, I'd like to see it tried. I'm not above trying it. That's for sure. Which female driver will be more successful on asphalt, Avedisian or Bryson? Avedisian. I think Jade is a good. I think she's really good. The Classic is this weekend. Are you going to watch, and who's your picks? It looks like I'm going to be watching it because, look, we could be snowed in. So as for my picks, I think Macedo is going to be up front. James McFadden and Macedo will be battling for the win. I'll go with Macedo. I see John Westbrook's in there. I don't understand the 001W. If the Raiders pick Mendoza first, is he doomed? I'm not sold on him as an NFL starter anyway. Look, he's gutsy and that's great. And I love that. I do. I like Baker Mayfield. So it's kind of, I just don't. The Raiders organization is crap. God, is it bad? They're as bad as, well, they're not quite as bad as Cleveland, but they're a bad organization. If I was the Raiders, I would hire McDermott today because he's a fixer. He brings organization. He's buttoned up. I would hire a guy like that. So doomed. That's going to depend on the coach, man. The coach it's got to get cleaned up. But I wouldn't want to go there. I know that. I wouldn't want to go to the Raiders. No way. They're going through coaches like a knife through butter. To Calistoga on one of the TBA dates. Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it. But there's still that battle, World of Outlaws high limit for Calistoga. Brenham Crouch looked fast as the year went on. A young guy getting it figured out. Yeah, I liked what I saw from him at the end of the year. He's able to put it in the top 5 at Port Royal, stacked field. I think Tyler Swank could help him. I saw somebody ask, I think it was Lauda, asked if Tyler Swank was overrated. I don't know. He has a King's Royal title. He has multiple Ironman titles. He's finished on the podium. He's had cars finish on the podium of the Knoxville Nationals. He was with shots early on in his career. I mean, very early. So I think Swank's good. I just think he's kind of different, and I think he'll help Brenham Crouch. Suggested NHL rule change. Shorthanded goal scored during a 2-minute minor ends the power play. Your thoughts? Let's not make it complicated. You know what? I think the NHL product right now is pretty much perfect in person. They got rid of the 2-line pass deal, which confused people. They cleaned up some of the, you can't neutral zone trap anymore, which made the game boring. I think I don't know of any rule that they should change at this point. I like what the product, and they're in person. Going to watch an NHL game is probably better than any sports experience that I've been at. And I've been at AFC championship games, and I love the NFL. It's number one for me. I've been at the Knoxville Nationals. I've been, so NHL hockey in person, just really, really good. Brenham Crouch looked fast. Okay, you got that one already. Anybody moving up from 358s to 410s locally? I think is it Aiden Hare here? I'm not 100% sure. I don't exactly put out those announcements. So I'm unsure right now if guys are moving up. I don't think there's anybody else at this point. Oh, here is Jim from Buffalo. My Bills lost, not happy, but 5 turnovers aren't great. Firing coach was dumb. I have a comment about that, Jim, and we'll see if you agree, because I'm sure you'll DM me. Sabres up 3-0, 15 days to go till racing can't wait. Here's the thing with McDermott. Are you going to get somebody better? I understand. Look, is he my favorite? No. Do I question? The one hang up I have with McDermott is the defensive side of the ball is his specialty. And yes, they have defensive coordinators, but a head coach usually has his fingers on the side of the ball that he has expertise. They do. Belichick, trust me, had a lot of control over that defense in New England. McVay has a lot of control over the offense with the Rams. It's just the way it is. McDermott's side of the ball did not perform well this year. Now, would I have fired him? No. I would have fired the GM who didn't get them pieces at the trade deadline, especially wideouts to stretch the field. Okay, you're handicapping Josh Allen, who is the best quarterback in the league. Yeah, if you want to argue Stafford, okay. Drake May had an unbelievable year, but just best quarterback. I mean, and then people say Josh Allen can't win. Well, guess what? He's not the one who was on the field when Mahomes drove down for the winning field goal in 13 seconds. So again, Mahomes hasn't played well for 2 years. So I don't, it's really sticky because you can get into a situation with a coach when, okay, you get somebody worse, you take a step back and then the ownership fires them. And then same thing happens. You can get in this system. Then you're Tennessee, the Raiders, and Cleveland. Got to be careful. Got to be careful. My guess is they hired Dable, but we'll see. I'm glad you're good, Jim. Lauda, there's a comment from Lauda about the Weichert, about Doug Wolfgang and Weichert parting ways after 120 wins. The question was that I covered. I didn't cover that one. Yes, that was yeah. I mean, you're right, but I didn't cover. The question was that I actually wrote about it. I didn't write about that when I was only 15 when that happened. So, but yes, you're right that was, that just, and yes, I would take Josh Allen over Mahomes right now. Yes. 2-year sample size. Yes. He's outplayed him numerous times. They just didn't win. Yes, I would take Allen right now over Patrick Mahomes. You don't get a 3-year grace because you were better 2-3 years ago. It was 3 years ago he was better. He hasn't been better since. You can't just look at stats. It's the eye test. And he has a better coach to boot. He has Andy Reid. He has an offensive coordinator there. He has 2 of them. McDermott couldn't coach offensive. I mean, he doesn't touch it. Josh Allen's had how many offensive coordinators? And he's still good. He's just more complete right now. Maybe it'll change next year. But a 2-year sample size is pretty good. And by the way, it's not like Mahomes is trash. Let's not say that. I had somebody yesterday tell me that Josh Allen was a fringe top 5 guy. Somebody should send him a wellness check. Gravel was barred for life from Port Royal in his 89 car for hitting a track crew guy during a red flag. Actually, I don't know anything about that. That one I'm unaware. I'm unaware. What Hershey Bears game should I go to? Anytime they play the Lehigh Valley Phantoms and Wilkes-Barre Scranton. And by the way, Mahomes, just because you 3 Super Bowls, the last 2 years they didn't win the Super Bowl. So I'm sorry, it's a team game. Still a team game. It's not one guy. I'd take Josh Allen over Patrick Mahomes today. Tanner Holmes or Jacob Allen? Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen? Shut up, Sugar Bear. Jacob Allen doesn't race anymore. Will Brad Sweet race Volusia Dirt Car Nationals? No. He will not. I was younger. Was Hodneck going to the Hefner 27 in 2014 surprising news, or was it one of those deals to where everybody knew it? Yeah, people knew where he was going. It was pretty evident where he was going. Okay, let's not crap on Mahomes now. He would not look different if he didn't have Kelsey to rely on. Let's not get crazy now. Mahomes is great. And on the pecking order, yes, he's higher. But, I mean, come on. Let's not act like he's crap. Kenny Adams and Fred Raymer swapping rides was big also. Yeah, no, that was. Tyler Walker, does anyone think Tyler Walker will actually come back, or was last year a sort of one-hit wonder? I maybe shows up in a California race. I don't think we'll see him again like we did last year. What's your thoughts on the wedge tires? None really at this point. None yet. I mean, we'll see how everything performs. I mean, we need a bigger sample size, see how they perform. The tire thing's going to be a sticky issue for a couple years, I think. You know, you have Race Saver going to, you know, developing a tire overseas to compete with Hoosier. And I think then you have, you know, Great Lakes, as I did a deal on, I believe it was Monday, about how they switched to American Racer. You know, Hoosier had some testing go on for different compounds. And then you had, you know, High Limits investigated American Racer. A track here did. I don't know where it's going to go. I don't. I think it's going to be a very dicey issue over the next 2 years, and people need to be careful what you wish for, because I don't think American Racer is big enough to service the whole sprint car community. And at that rate, I just don't know what's going to happen. I wish I knew. I'm going to be here for it, though. That's for sure. 90-9, alternative National Series history and their demises. Maybe, but we need maybe. High Limit has the best shot. No doubt about it. They're more organized, more money. They have 13 drivers this year again. That's fine. A 90-9 is, Sugar Bear, is what's the limit for a national series to be successful? Like, what your roster is 17 too many? Is 15 too many? Because guys start eating each other as far as money made. Top three with the World of Outlaws are always going to be the best. Nobody's beaten David Gravel, Buddy Kofort, and Carson Macedo over a season and as far as money. So that is actually a 90-9. Once I find out what these rosters settle in at, that's going to be a 90-9. What do you think about Race Saver 305s making their own tires now? Yeah, I kind of hit on that. Man, that tire issue is going to be a problem over the next 2 years. I just don't know where it goes. I'm not surprised. They're cheaper. People are looking for a cheaper alternative. You bring in competition, that happens. But be careful. You don't want to alienate Hoosier, because if Continental pulls them and says we're not doing it anymore, like, you know, Goodyear did, we're going to be in trouble. The sport's going to be in trouble. So it's dicey. What is Wedge Tires? They're a company that they make it's just a different tire. A company, they call them Wedge Tires. It's a company that came out and for lack of a better term. Your feelings on NIL money in college sports, good or bad? I wanted college players to get paid, but I didn't want them getting millions. It's too much. It's out of control. It's changed the landscape of college football. I mean, it used to be that they couldn't even have a job. That's when I wanted them to get paid. The NCAA used to say they couldn't have a job. Couldn't work. So where are they getting money? So there I wanted them to get a stipend. Now it's gotten out of hand. Of course, like many things in this country, it's an overcorrection. So I think it's bad. Gio Sulzy racing Volusia. Yes, he is. Jerry, who's that? Yarbert, friend of Steve Kinzer out of San Jose, funded a lot of money for the USA deal. There you go. Thank you. Appreciate it. The Washington Capitals ship is sinking. Send some players back to Hershey. I wish they would, but that's not going to happen. Jeremy, top three most shocking events in your lifetime of sprint car racing. No deaths or anything. I think we already did that. Or no, we did breaking it stories. Shocking events in your lifetime. this is going to sound weird. When the Outlaws wanted to go American Racer, and 3 areas basically got the Outlaws to back down. That's number one, because the precedent was what the Outlaws say, that's what goes. That didn't happen. That was like 2015, 16, somewhere in there. I wrote a story for Penn Live. I actually covered that. So that is something that has never happened before, and that's why we have Hoosier today. So that's probably the biggest one that I can remember. Then you start getting into deaths, injuries. The Greg Hodnett death is probably the worst story that I ever had to cover. Definitely the Greg Hodnett thing was the worst thing I've ever had to cover. How about the Wolfgang AD scandal? People heard it, started hearing about that. And, Deuce Terrell, we did a deep dive on that. And he talked about that. Look, a scandal in racing. Is it really that shocking? Not really. I mean, it ended one of the, and the trio stayed together, meaning Wolfgang Hubbard and Deuce Terrell carried over to the Payless car, the Williams brothers. So now they weren't as good. The owners stuck their nose in and couldn't let a team that won that much do what they were supposed to do. But yeah, no, I agree. It was a big deal. It was a big deal at that time. When the Outlaws left that car stuck on the pole and kept racing. Oh yeah, I'll never forget that. I actually wrote a column about that and just blasted them. I don't ever want to hear about safety. I don't ever want to hear about safety after that one. That was you want to know the worst part about that incident? There was a propane tank. The refreshment stand was on the other side. And there was a propane tank below that. If it would have fallen, it would have been 10 times worse. So yeah, that was terrible. Good point. I always like when Lauda gets in there. It's a good point. 6 more, everyone. Let's hit 100. Hit the like button. There you go. Thank you. Any word on Robert Blue? He is coming back, I understand. He's going to be ready for the season opener, I believe. I believe that's the case. Bill Baylog, at least 5 wins this year. Book it. Ooh. Ballsy statement, Cotton. Ballsy statement. Ballsy. All right, we have some more starred comments. Who will be in the Bill Rose 6R car in 2026? Will Bill be back to racing himself? Check back later in the week at SprintCarUnlimited.com. I've talked to Bill numerous times, and there should be something soon. What happens first? The Cowboys win a playoff game, or Cale Sanderson and PSU lose a dual meet? Well, neither of those may never happen. Neither of those will happen. Dallas will win a playoff game before Cale Sanderson and Penn State lose a dual meet. That Penn State team, that's ridiculous. Jeremy, what's the most full-timers you'll see in the Outlaws? I think you could see 17 this year. I think that's a distinct possibility. And I think that's too many. I don't think it works then. Broncos plus 5.5. I think Lauda had a comment up, and I just caught it out of my eye that people rally around backup quarterbacks. That is very true. Very, very, very true, and that's a good point. I feel better, and this is going to sound weird. I almost feel better about the Rams than I won't bet on either of these games probably. I think they're too close, but yeah, Jared Stidham, Peyton likes him. a lot. He's talked about it, and it's before even the injury. He's talked about him numerous times. And Lauda's right. They do rally around those guys. Jeff Hostetler, ring a bell? So could we have that situation here? It's very possible. I'd take the Broncos 5.5, by the way. I think it's going to be close, even if it's why is 17 too many? Because there's not enough money to go around out there. That's why. It's just, Brian Carter has said this. These series are built for like 13 to 14 guys, even 15. You're getting a little too much. 15's the max. And you say, well, it's only 2 more guys. Just because there's 15 doesn't mean it works for, especially with the Outlaws. They don't have a franchise system. They're not getting guaranteed money other than tow. And that tow drops tremendously as you go down through. I just don't, 17, just there's not enough money to go around. You're not going to be making fields. What's the sweet spot for cars on a traveling series and why? I just explained it. 13, 14. A high limit can sustain 15 because of the franchise system. There's guaranteed money there that I think is higher than what the World of Outlaws can provide. That being said, I'd say 13. 13's the number. Should team owners still get points if their car isn't at the track but racing elsewhere? Well, no. You should get points if you're not at the track. No. Any thoughts on how the 1A will do this year for the Woo Tour? I'm anxious to see how Ashton Torgerson does. He was impressive to me. Better year than I thought he would have. I know a lot of people really criticized that deal from the start. I thought he looked good. I'm anxious to see how he does. I think he could win Rookie of the Year, obviously. In fact, I would say he's going to be Rookie of the Year with the World of Outlaws. Now, do I think he'll win a race? That's a stretch. But I think he could have a top 5 or 2, some top 10s and Rookie of the Year. Also, I know Carly Holmes joined the 1S. Did Logan find a crew chief for 2026 after he and Pruitt split? I don't think so. Carly Holmes, from everything I've heard from the Macri camp, they thought she was great. She worked. They said she was a great worker. They loved to hire her. She ended up going on the road with Logan Schuchart. I think it's a good get for Logan Schuchart. I do not know if he has found a crew chief yet. And maybe that's a good thing. I don't know if that team is really needs one. Logan does a lot of his own stuff. So we'll see how it goes. But Carly Holmes is a good get for them. Jeremy, I think World Racing Group had the right idea, creating extreme midgets and non-wing series as a support class for the Outlaws. Didn't work. I feel 305s would be perfect support class for creating new stars. Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I don't think it needs to be with a series. Like, I didn't like the extreme midget thing because I didn't understand what you were trying to do. And I think it was more of a pet project more than it was one that was going to be successful. And of course, we've seen how it's gone. 305s, yeah, I think you got to start somewhere. 305s, then move up to 360s and 410s. Win a ton of races, maybe move up to 410s directly. I've seen it before. So, I mean, Logan Wagner did that. So, yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I just don't want him running in conjunction with the National Series. Larson Racing at Volusia, minus 150 or plus 200. I don't know. I would assume he's going to be there. I wouldn't see why he wouldn't. So What's been the most full-timers in outlaw history? I have to research that. I know they had to mean 15 at one time. So 15, maybe 16. I know 15 for sure. How about the Dietrich Hartlaub 48 wing when Dietrich was racing elsewhere? Is this in the PA Posse Series rulebook? God knows what, as far as I know, they're using rules from the tracks. There's no PA Posse Series rulebook. But I have heard that they're not going to allow something like that. The Grove took it out. They rectified that rule. So I would assume that they're not going to be able to do that for the PA Series as well. 18 and 2000. There you go. That was 25 years ago, man. I appreciate reminding me of that. I know that 2000 roster was loaded with Hall of Famers. I think there was 9 of them, future Hall of Famers. Jeremy, have you ever seen a driver hop in someone else's car without the officials knowing and compete for the evening? No, I have never seen that. I know people, Tony Stewart used to do it under an assumed name. I've seen some other guys do that. But so I guess that would be a yes. But everybody knew who it was. All right, guys, that's a wrap on the questions. I appreciate everybody joining the show. I apologize for dropping off there for a few minutes with whatever happened. I don't know if my computer, so I apologize for that. But again, thank you very much for joining the show, and we will be back next week. Stay tuned.